People who don't want to see pill testing come about have an ideological barrier. The ideology is one that is reinforced by this global pantomime we call the war on drugs. It was something that Richard Nixon dreamt up. The idea that we could find a way to punish those who were already suffering in society. Now, it's fair enough to say that not all drug users suffer, not all drug users are impoverished. Is death an appropriate punishment for young people experimenting and enjoying themselves? Because that's what governments are saying when they don't want pill testing. They are implicitly taking part in the death of those young people. And I think that should be questioned.
There's a phrase saying where people say that if you do this, the sky will fall in. People will take more drugs, it'll cause more damage, and so far these things have never happened. They deny the evidence, they ignore the evidence, and they simply base campaigns on fear.
In the sort of phases of this market, what used to be the case was that, say in the early 2000s, the concern for both consumers and researchers alike were contaminants, things that could hurt you just because they're poisonous, things that have been added to cut drugs, things that are left there in the manufacturing process. And that really isn't the issue as much anymore. It's interesting to hear people, even nowadays, saying that you could be hurt by things that are put in pills or drugs like bleach or rat sack or whatever. The problem now is that, in fact, the drugs that are being consumed are manufactured to pharmaceutical purity. So the drugs that young people are consuming in a modern era, they're not being manufactured as they used to be in the car boots of members of various criminal gangs. They're being manufactured in formal industrial chemical labs. They are incredibly pure. They don't need to be cut because they're manufactured cheaply. And so that which we see on the market is frequently greater than 90% pure. And so it's actually the variation of the market, so the wide number of different drugs that are out there, that scares most researchers like myself. To put it in context, back in the early 2000s, there were maybe between 15 and 20 drugs that used to cause us sleepless nights. I've just returned from Vienna from a meeting at the UN Office of Drug Control, where they recently announced that the number of drugs that they've recently legislated against has topped 700. And we have no real idea about what most of those do to people. And we really need to get a handle on them. So whereas 10, 20 years ago, the market was kind of like a pit bull and would hurt anybody who went near it, the market now is much more like a viper, and its danger is in the purity of its toxicity.